Welcome back to the Balance Sheet, where we talk about all things in the world of women's wrestling. And we have a lot to cover this week. And I am being not over exaggerating when I say that. There has just been so many
Ton of stuff.
events that have happened since the last time we spoke. I am one of your co-hosts, King Ajar.
Hey everyone, it's Billy. How we doing?
And, we're going to get right to it. But before we do, hold on.
Yeah.
Look at this. What is this? Oh, I'm sorry. It just got in my
I
way
mean,
here.
a flag, a hoodie, a hat,
Oh, look at this. Look at the hat. It says champions. Okay.
it
All
it
right.
does. All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We
Thank
do
you.
talk about football for about 2 minutes at the end of every podcast, so we'll get about a minute of it out of the way. I think everyone who
Yeah.
listens can congratulate you. Uh, for your Eagles winning. I think most of us were very happy to see them beat the Chiefs, and you
Yes.
deserve to be decked out in Eagles gear. So
Yes.
congratulations, my
All
friend.
right. So now, thank you. We'll get to that at the end, but let's get right into it. So last night, after the NBA All-Star Saturday night, we had AEW Grand Slam, the first time ever that AEW was in the beautiful country of Australia. I believe it was Brisbane, correct? Is where
Yep,
the show was held.
Brisbane. Yep.
Early numbers indicate it is the third highest grossing arena show in AEW's history, about 1.4 million American dollars, and a super hot crowd, 11,000 people. They were hot from the opening bell to the end. It reminded me of an old school WCW Clash of Champions where you had the 2 hour show. You had, you'll have your one title change, and then you'll have others that you thought could have flipped but didn't. So we'll get right into it. There were two women's matches on that show, including the main event. But before we get to the main event, let's start right at the top with Mercedes Moné, your reigning defending TBS champion, along with your New Japan Strong champion and your Rev Pro champion,
Yep.
defending against um probably, I would say, in terms of just momentum, maybe the hottest women's wrestler in the world over the last 3 weeks in Harley Cameron, who is a native of Australia. And this was a match that the crowd was super hot for from the very beginning. They hated Mercedes, they loved Harley, which is what it should be. There were
Yep.
CE no chants. They were booing everything Mercedes did. And Mini Monet made an appearance in this match twice and got one of the loudest reactions of the night. So I'll pass the baton to you before I give you my thoughts. What did you think of the match and the overall presentation?
Yeah, the match. It's funny because you go back 3 weeks to a month. You had even people who were part of the crew going, "Man, a match versus Harley." Um, I don't know about that. I think you and I, from the very beginning, certainly on here and on Twitter, said, "Hey, you know what? We've been checking off all these wrestling in ring related kind of mini feuds since Mercedes has been in AEW. So I was up for some fun. I was up for a feud that had a couple different things going on that she would normally have, and I also believe that she would get a good match out of Harley, and I was right. Certainly Harley's best match. Um, and I don't want to only just credit Mercedes on that. Obviously, Mercedes um, led the match. Harley's put in a lot of work to be able to put in a match like that. Just, I think, training for 3 years. But I highlight that to say she's been in the ring less than I would venture any woman who's on American TV um, consistently. I She's got less in ring time than anyone you'll see on American TV. So them getting her to this point, um, with the backstage stuff, with the puppet, with the ventriloquism, the promos, um, her personality and just kind of the it factor is a big deal. So you don't want to have a dud of a match after all that though. And I thought they had a fun TV match. It was the right amount of time. I think if it had gone longer, you know, um you may have a different opinion on that, but I think it ended at the right time. And I just again want to highlight uh it was a very successful feud. Harley is green. The only other woman who's on the ring in TV in North America who's maybe been in the ring less than her is maybe Maxine Dupree. And Maxine Dupree might have more ring time than Harley. So it's those two. Um, so I thought it was a very, very successful little feud that gave the hometown crowd something to cheer, someone to boo, and then ultimately had the right outcome. So
Yeah, I thought the match as a match was okay. I didn't think, I mean, Mercedes has been on such a heater, since after the Brit match that, I mean, if you're being honest, I wouldn't know where to rank it in her matches. It probably isn't close to the top five, top six, top seven. I
oh
mean,
no, no.
Mercedes has had so many great matches. Um, I wished they booked it where, as a viewer, I had a little bit more hope for Harley winning. Like I knew she was never gonna win. That's fine. And that's what it should be. But I wanted more false finishes. I wanted more, maybe, she hits her with a move, foot on the rope, hand on the rope, roll out of the ring. Those type of things that could have really cemented Harley as I almost had it. I was right there, but I'm just not experienced enough, and it kind of sends her on her journey. I think the crowd played a huge part in why the match was successful. I mean, let's be honest here. I don't know if that match gets those type of reactions on American TV, especially in some of the markets that AEW has run. But I
Hmm.
think the mini Monet puppet was brilliant. It added a layer to this feud that is perfect because Mercedes is the big bad champion. She's never lost. So you have to get under her skin. And
Yep.
if anything, I hope opponents of Mercedes use the puppet as a way to enrage her and maybe make her make a mistake. Because that's the
Would you
story
buy
I'd
one of
like to.
those?
Yes, yes. I would
I
actually
would
buy
too.
one. I would buy one and I would have it on this show. Like I would literally have it in my hand. And again, Tony does some things well, and a lot of things he does not do well. And one of the things he does not do well is merchandising. I've known many people who've been to AEW shows who said the merch stand is subpar. Uh, they don't have anything for most of the women wrestlers. And as when we were on the show with Chrissy, as she is somebody who travels to these events, spends money, has all the merch, disposable income, whatever you want to say. Hearing that a show that did your third most money ever, the merch stand sold out before the first match even happened. That's bordering on malpractice as a business, right?
It's yeah, it's unforgivable almost. Um, especially for the third biggest gate, as you said. Is right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah,
You
this is
know,
your
retail
wheelhouse.
retail inventory, you want to get your product in the right place at the right time for where customers have a demand for it, right? But if you think about like a mall, um, you know, a store in a mall is trying to figure out what's hot in that area and also how many people are they going to see that might buy it. There's no excuse for AEW to not have a good merch stand at this AEW show. And I think, other podcasts have already pointed out that everything's sold out
Hmm.
ahead of time. They know how many customers are going to see, and they know what the customers are interested in buying. And I've been to two shows in the last 2 months, and just nothing commemorative, nothing that makes you feel like you've got to get it while you're there. Kind of run of the mill merch shirts. You know what it's like if you ever go see a band at a if you ever go see a band at a local show, like a local venue, you know the type of merch stand where the bands run it themselves?
Hmm.
Like if you're on first, the guy on second runs your merch for you, and if you're on, and then when the guy on second goes on, the team on first, and you actually meet the musicians buying merch, that's what it feels like at an AEW show, and that's not a compliment because you're not meeting the wrestlers, but it's thin like that, and it's money left on the table.
Well,
Um,
for a company that's getting, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars a year in TV money, there is really no excuse to be so poorly run at the merch stand, right? Like it's not like they don't have the money. I mean, Tony is very rich. They're making a lot of money through TV. So what is the excuse, right? Like what is the
yeah,
excuse? And honestly, the puppet, why is it not being sold?
look at how many WWE sold the crap out of that Alexa Bliss thing, right?
Yeah.
The doll. Uh, someone in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw pictures of the merch stand. There wasn't any Mercedes Moné stuff. There wasn't any Harley Cameron stuff. I think I saw a Tony Storm, um, maybe even a limited edition figure, which there was a limited amount of. But just, I mean, you knew Tony and Mariah were going to be on this show like 6 months ago. I mean, they knew internally that Tony was going to be on this show 6 months ago. They may not have known about Harley, and I get it if she doesn't have, um, merch yet. But the puppet is something that you double time and put a turnaround on to sell while it's hot.
Yeah. Uh, Kevin Nash famously, he was on, I can't remember what show it was, but he said, everybody always talks about how, oh, when we went over to WCW, we got this guaranteed money and guaranteed money. But he goes, do you understand why we got the guaranteed money? He goes, because every quarter at WWE, you got a check, and attached to the check, it was the paper, what are the printers called where you rip it from the sides? The dot matrix printers.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And you would get a readout of every single merch item you sold and what percentage you're getting from each item. And at the end of it would be a check. And it would be, it could be very lucrative, six figures even. And so what he was saying is the reason WCW had to overpay salary is they didn't have any merch. They had no infrastructure for merchandise. They didn't have infrastructure for items. Well, AEW feels a lot like that, where they don't have an infrastructure for merchandise. They don't know
yeah.
what the fans want to buy, what is hot, who is hot. I mean, how the puppet hasn't already been released is a joke. That thing is so over. And
Yeah.
it really should be a focal point of every single opponent who fights Mercedes going forward. Like they should almost get in her face with that thing.
And it's an easy play again from a procurement perspective. If you can get that puppet made at a cheap enough cost, you sell a crap ton of them. And if you can't, you still get it made and sell it at a high price point.
Yeah.
It's one or the other, and either way works
Oh,
because
yeah, that thing is hot.
yeah. Um, Real quick on the match, I hear what you're saying about a better hope spot for Harley, and I'll shout out Danny on X. He's the one who called this out. I still don't know the answer. I don't know that they could have done a better hope spot because I don't even know if everyone in Australia knows what Harley's finisher is. A hope
Yeah.
spot is you got the plucky underdog, and you're like, they're not going to hit their finisher on the champion. And then they do, and everyone's like, oh my God, they did it. And it's 1, 2, and then 2.9, they kick out. They did the hope spot with the crossbody and the Australian destroyer, we'll call it, which that's going to pop any crowd. I don't know if that is pre-established as a that's not how she won her match 2 weeks ago. So I don't know that they had a visual cue for everyone to be like, oh, she hit the move and then Mercedes kicks out, which just shows how good of a job they did with what they were working with. Harley is very much well known and exposed as a character. As a wrestler, I don't think anyone really knows yet. And
What if she did the frog splash?
can she do a frog splash?
Well, I was just thinking about moves that would pop a crowd versus Mercedes specifically, like if she did a
Yeah,
backstabber or she did a frog splash,
yeah.
or I don't think she could. I don't think she could do the moneymaker. Now, I'm gonna point this out. Somebody messaged me and asked me an honest question: do you like the moneymaker as a finisher? And I said, I'm hit or miss on it because I think when she hits it clean, it looks really clean. But when
Yeah.
she doesn't, because of the opponent, it could be very weird. But then somebody posted this on a message board, and it's actually brilliant. Mercedes is becoming such a hated heel in a good way. Like, I want to see this person lose, like the Floyd Mayweather kind of gimmick. Wouldn't having a finishing move no one likes be part of it?
Yeah.
Like it almost now feels like it's part of the shtick. Like, I know you think this move sucks, and I'm still gonna use it to win my matches because that's how much I think of you all, which is nothing at all.
Guaranteed when she goes tweener or face, she brings back the crossface and or something different. And then we'll still do the moneymaker, but it might not finish matches. Um, the issue with the moneymaker, I'll defend it in some ways because I love the way it looks when it gets hit clean. It's great when it gets hit clean. I mean, people watch the greatest wrestlers on earth get pinned with a people's elbow. So everyone does need to calm down a little bit, right?
Uh,
Some of the most iconic wrestlers in history got pinned with a people's elbow. So just
or a leg drop.
a leg drop, at least the leg drop hit the neck. My funny thing about the people's elbow is Jim Ross, bless his heart, would always try to sell it and be like, an elbow directly to the heart. And it's like, that elbow hits the bicep at best, like it does not hit the heart. But I digress. The issue with the moneymaker, and it happened again with Harley last night, for women who are taller than her, there's just a mechanical issue with their legs tucking up. They tuck their legs up when they get picked up, and then when they get flipped over, their legs are tucked more and their knees hit before the head hit. And I don't know, like, I'll just call it for one of her biggest rivals. What would it even look like to try to hit Charlotte Flair with a moneymaker with how tall Charlotte is and kind of gangly and stuff? Right.
Yeah, that
There's a
would.
mechanical issue. Couple things. I don't think it's that big of a deal, hence my thing on The Rock. Hey, Hollywood Rock, Mercedes Moné, it fits. I think it fits at this point. She's not trying to pop a crowd with the moneymaker. She's trying to almost let out the groan of like, damn, she's gonna win. Like,
Yeah. Mhm.
so yeah.
Okay, so this past week leading up to this Harley Cameron match, there is a groundswell of, hey, she should put Harley over. She should lose because this is Harley is hot. Harley is on fire. This is how you make a star. They have very little women in the AEW roster who have charisma to begin with. Mercedes being one of them that does. You gotta strike while the iron's hot. It's just over and over and over again that people just kept saying, Harley has to win, Harley has to win, Harley has to win. Then I saw, oh, is Mercedes gonna bury another opponent? Okay. And then I heard, oh, well, Mercedes is she has go away heat now. He's at a point where it's infuriating and then the creative control card kept coming back. I'll give you the floor here because I know you have a lot of thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the idea that Harley could win, I'll just I'll just give a virtual pat on the back to Mercedes, because when you started this feud, the idea that anyone in the world would be like, Harley should win, it'll be great. Um, just goes to show what a good job her and Harley did. Um, you can't have Mercedes lose that match as her first loss. If she had lost before and you want to do like a fluky Hurricane Helms type win deal, it would fit, but not on the investment they've currently put into the undefeated streak, the 4 belts. You know, they've got other companies working with them to make her feel like that first loss is going to be the biggest thing in the world. You just can't hotshot that. Um, and Harley has done a great job, but it's been 3 weeks, and I'm actually going to give WWE credit on something. You guys know I'm not a big fan of anyone who listens. I'm not a Jey Uso guy. I'm just not. But getting hot and drawing money are different things. And Harley's gotten hot with the crowd that's already there. And that doesn't mean she's going to sell tickets to the next show. And it doesn't mean that she's going to continue to pop a rating. You've started a fire, and now it's up to AEW and Harley to keep that fire going and make it bigger. And where I give Jay credit, if they would have or where I give WWE and Jay credit, when Jay first got hot, it was just because they wanted to see somebody stand up to and beat Roman Reigns. That was it. You're the other guy. I hate this guy. I'll root for you. But it got bigger and bigger. And ultimately, every time he came out, the crowd was cheering for him and he was being put in good spots. And then they didn't give him the title, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now Jey Uso legitimately has the biggest pop in WWE. And I presume he's selling tickets because he's certainly selling the crap out of merch.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just start a fire on this one spark and think that it's going to maintain itself. And I think if you give in on knee jerk booking like that, it doesn't help Harley. Now, can they build her for a year and make her be or 6 months to a year and make her be a draw? She's got a connection with the crowd, so we'll see. But her winning last night would have been a train wreck for everyone involved.
Yeah, and the Jey Uso comparison is comical because Jey Uso was a WrestleMania main eventer before he got hot as a single star, right? He was in a WrestleMania main event against Owens and Zayn. He was also part of the biggest storyline, at least in terms of drawing money, the wrestling industry has maybe ever seen with the Bloodline. So
Yeah,
he
and
is an established character where Harley Cameron right now is, let's call it what it is. She has super charisma. She is super over it, but she's a comedy act. That's
yeah,
what she is. When Jey Uso first became main event Jey Uso, you never would have ever called for him beating Gunther. He has to establish himself,
right.
win an intercontinental title, but lose it very quickly. Fight Gunther, lose, Priest, lose. Like he's lost. Where finally now people are so like, okay, it's Jay's time. He wins the Rumble. But what did Gunther say? He goes, the best joke, the best promo he had is when he went to the brother and when he went to Jimmy and said, if you had just said that word, it could have been you. You
Right.
could have been him. And that's what this needs to be. Like Harley has to establish herself as a credible wrestler, not a
Yeah.
comedy act. She's great at ventriloquism. She's great at rapping. She's great at singing. She looks phenomenal. She has every tool you could ask for. She has charisma oozing out of her ears. But AEW has produced some of the best women's wrestling matches ever in North America, with Mercedes being the focal point. I mean, the two Chris matches, obviously those are two of the best women's matches you'll ever see.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think you have a Mercedes Moné Because if you beat her with Harley, then what do you say about Chris? What do you say about Willow? What do you say about oh my goodness. Oh, who did she have the match of the year with? How did I Hazuki
Hazuki.
Hazuki. Okay. You know, she's beaten Momo already. Like, what does it say to those other women? It almost devalues them that kind of somebody who most people don't even know what her finishing move is can beat somebody who hasn't lost. And
Yeah,
her first loss has to be with somebody who can carry the division in the
that's
ring. In the
that's the
ring.
I saw someone say, well, no, it's not like Harley's winning the world title. The TBS title is the mid card title, whether Mercedes elevates it or not. It's the mid card title. So here's my rebuttal to that. Chelsea Green is the mid card champion in WWE, and Chelsea Green is an entertainment act that is maybe one of the best in the world. She's so freaking entertaining. You know what else Chelsea is? Really freaking good in the ring. She doesn't wrestle
Mhm.
as the over person because of who she is, but she can freaking wrestle. And she was the TNA champion as far back as 2017, 18. Got a lot of experience. She's not just in there goofing. That may be part of the act. She may be getting a wedgie from Naomi because people react to it. She also took the highest ladder spot I can recall a woman taking at Money in the Bank, and uh, she's got some really good matches under her belt. And Harley should be aspiring to be on Chelsea Green's level. And I'm not saying she can't, but she's got to get good in the ring. That's why Maxine is over as she is. She's not wrestling for the Intercontinental title because um, she wouldn't be ready for it yet. If you win it, then now you have to have matches, right? You have to have a lot of the matches, and I don't. It's not a negative thing. She's crazy good for less than 3 years of training. It's just, it takes time, and getting over with the crowd is probably harder than
Mhm.
her getting better in the ring. So they just got to keep her over and keep giving her opportunities.
Yeah, and they have to stop saying, "Oh, well, it's just the TBS title," because you know what? Mercedes has made that thing very prestigious.
Yep.
You could argue it's more of a valuable commodity than the women's world title in AEW. And it's one thing that I think Tony gets right about women's mid-card titles that the WWE main roster does not get. Because, you know, the US champ, no, the Intercontinental Women's Champion is eating pins on Raw to qualify for an elimination chamber to get the world title. So what I like about what they do with the Mercedes, the TBS title, is you never hear Mercedes say, well, I want to go after the world title because I have the
Yeah,
lesser
I wish I
title.
had that other belt. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas WWE is basically telling you, why is Lyra going into a match with Bailey to qualify for a match to get another title when she has a title?
Yeah.
Focus on making that title important. And again, not saying it has anything to do with Mercedes. I'm sure WWE had all the plans to introduce two mid card women's titles, but what are they really becoming? What are they? Like, they hardly get defended. I forget sometimes Lyra even has the belt. So at least you could say a lot of things about AEW critical, but the one thing you cannot say is they don't protect their TBS champion, which, let's be
Yep.
honest, Jade was very protected and Mercedes is very protected. And no, everybody out there in internet world, she does not have creative control, which again, I don't know why this comes up every time she wins a match. Does she have creative control? Because no, she doesn't. But you made a great point. She is representing three different companies with those belts: Rev Pro, New Japan, All Elite. Now, yes, her principal contract is with All Elite, but AEW contracts allow their wrestlers to take bookings in other promotions that are not North American based, right?
Yep.
Other than Ring of Honor. Like, she can't go work at TNA, she can't go work in WWE, but she can work Rev Pro, she can work um New Japan. And obviously, they're gonna have to run it by Tony. Hey, Tony, we'd like Mercedes to drop our belt to this person. Tony would have to have a say in that because he's kind of her booking agent. So Yeah. She does not have creative control. She does not bury people. Like people have to stop using that term. They don't know what it means.
Yeah,
Burying somebody is the finger poke of doom, is burying a title. Burying somebody is RKOing Kofi Kingston, then getting up and swearing at him because he didn't take a bump correctly and then pinning him. Burying somebody is Triple H giving Daniel Bryan the pedigree and Randy Orton walks to the ring and in 5 minutes he still doesn't kick out. Like those are the things that hurt wrestlers,
yeah,
not this. Harley is better having this match than before she stepped in the ring. And that's the point of elevating talent. Chris
yeah,
Statlander is better for the two Mercedes matches. I think Willow is better. You can't say anything other than Stephanie Vaquer is just on a rocket ship ride after her match. So people have to stop using these terms because they're false. They're wrong. Burying somebody means that they are worse. You know what burying somebody is? Roadblock 2016.
oof. And then the promo after.
Roadblock 2016, you have the babyface champion up 2-1 in an Iron Woman's setting. All she has to do is hold in the figure four or whatever it's called, the figure eight. Let the bell ring. Yes, she's in pain. She might even have a broken leg, but she wins the match. Instead, at the buzzer, she taps. And then in overtime, she taps. So she choked away a lead, lost to the heel. And then the next night, as the babyface came out and said, "Yeah, you're the better wrestler." What? And immediately after that point with the Sasha Banks character, she was never the same for a long time. I could argue she was never the same until blue hair Sasha Banks because she got buried again with Alexa Bliss. She beats Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam. Alexa Bliss comes out. Well, when does Sasha Banks ever defend a title? And then she loses
Yeah.
clean in the middle of the ring. That's buried. This is not buried. People have to know the difference. And what's the other one? Go Away Heat. That was the other popular one I heard this week. Okay. Do people understand what Go Away Heat means? It means the crowd is not saying anything. They're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Did people listen to the crowd last night? Did people listen to when Harley and Mercedes were in the face off and how hot the crowd was for Harley? That's not go away heat. That's real drawing money heat, which is I want to see this person get their ass kicked. That's Mercedes is just doing the best Ric Flair impersonation she can do from the old NWA days. She goes into your
Yeah.
town, she beats your champion, your hero, but she makes you believe that person almost could beat her. That's what this is. So that's my thoughts on it. And I'm
Yeah.
almost tired of how misinformed a lot of the wrestling
Well,
fans are.
it's we'll belabor the point. But a lot of the wrestling media, and I did air quotes for anyone not watching the video, wrestling media, they all kind of came out at the same time last week and said, maybe Harley should win. And it seemed disingenuous and it seemed very almost planned for them to put the seat out there almost to make it Mercedes look bad when she ultimately beats Harley because they all knew Harley wasn't winning. Um, when you talk about who's Mercedes elevated and this and that and the other, how about you have that same smoke for the men's championship, which we don't even see on TV anymore because, oh, by the way, John Moxley's your men's champion. The belt is who's he elevating? What's the story? How's he making the belt better? How's he making his opponents better? How's that championship becoming like? And Mercedes is held to a high standard uh, because people want her to fail. So she's held to a high standard by her fans who know she's the greatest in the world. And then she's held to a high standard, but a disingenuinely high standard by people who want to see her fail. I don't know why, but the men in AEW are not held to any of the standards that Mercedes Moné is held to.
So I know you're a fan of this male wrestler, and I think he should give, and he's a phenomenal in-ring wrestler, but I think where he could make a lot of money is his charm outside of the ring with the women he attracts, which is Buddy Matthews or Buddy Murphy. Because if there was an Australian competitor who should have won last night on that card, other than, and we'll get to Tony here in a sec, it should have been Buddy Matthews. He's a phenomenal in-ring wrestler. And
Yeah,
Okada
but
is amazing. But my
yeah,
point is, I watched that match and I'm like, okay, if Okada were to lose to him in that setting, I could almost believe it because this is a guy in wrestling story almost beat Roman Reigns. So if you can almost beat Roman Reigns, fans could believe you could beat Okada. Right? Like that's
almost
not a
beat
far
Osprey a
stretch.
couple of weeks ago.
Almost beat Osprey. So to me, I felt like that was the trigger you pulled. Now I understand he wasn't going to win, but if you want to get mad at something, get mad at him losing to Okada more than Harley losing to Mercedes.
Did you see the 100 articles about how Okada should lose to Buddy? Oh no,
No.
you didn't, because Mercedes is sells, clicks or whatever you want to call it, and that's how you just know that. That's why she kind of pays them no mind, and when she does, it's usually a, what she say, nerd alert the other day on the
Yeah.
retweet that she did, because they do make a lot of money off of her
Hmm.
while not giving her respect. I think if they respected her more, yeah, coverage is coverage, but they play into the disrespect in order to make their money, and
She's
it's gross.
polarizing, and
Yeah.
that's what it is. So let's get to the main event of AEW
Main
Grand
event.
Slam. Main
Congrats, Tony.
event.
Good call.
We have Mariah May defending her women's title against timeless Toni Storm, who is from Australia. Uh, you know, I always envisioned the real live feud to end the way this feud has been booked. And I have to give Tony all the credit in the world about this feud. I think from a pure storytelling standpoint and how it's been booked from day one, it's one of the better women's feuds of all time. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about in the ring. I'm not talking about the match quality. Although I did enjoy this match. I thought the match in London was a little bit better,
Yeah.
but I think that the way they have booked the story from Mariah being her sidekick to using her to becoming this evil, just vicious heel. By the way, Mariah May, what a talent she is. She's unbelievable. She had, you talk about somebody you could build a division around. She's it too. She's
Yeah.
fantastic. I have nothing. I just think she's great. Toni Storm has been phenomenal in this role. I can't say anything bad about. I mean, she's just unbelievable. She knows how to act, how to play the role. Um, I mean, it was the right call. She had to win. It's in her home country. Uh, and it was clear she was going to win because Buddy and Harley already lost. I thought the match was okay. I think they did way too many finishing moves. It almost devalued them. Each
Yeah.
other's finishing move, it almost devalued them. I loved Toni Storm winning, timeless Toni Storm winning on a small package. That was a very throwback, retro way to win a title, very old school. But this feud's going to continue. It's not over. It's 1-1. And I
Yeah.
think there's going to be some kind of blow off stip match. Um, maybe in LA, maybe at the next pay per view after that. But I think they're going to have some kind of death match, some cage match, some last woman standing match. But what did you think of the main event?
Yeah. No, I was a fan of both women. I think your point, Mariah, as a total package, obviously has the look, great on the mic, and she wrestles a lot meaner and rougher than you think she would, which is a huge compliment. I do think they held something back last night. It didn't feel like a blood feud fight, and their feud has felt like a blood feud, right? Obviously. Um, but that's probably the way it was produced for them. So based on what they had to do, it was a very, very good match. That might be why they went a little crazy with the finishers, because they were trying to keep some of the intensity up. Because it was less violent per se and less charged than the all in or the all in match. And if anything, it should be at a higher level. But I think that it'll be Revolution that they'll have the third match. Um, no, I do think it's been one of the better women's feuds ever. Just look at their interactions with each other over the last 2 years. It's been very, very well done. One small criticism is I feel like it's that endpoint booking that Tony keeps doing with this belt, where he had Mariah's reign a little bit on pause while Tony was gone, and she wasn't doing anything meaningful enough, in my opinion. Um, and that's kind of the way he booked Tony's reign, waiting for Mariah's turn. So it's kind of been like the endpoints are very good, and Mariah won the belt at the exact right time. Tony's won it back at the exact right time. The matches were good. Um, the moments with each other in the middle were very good, with the Mariah turning on her, and then Tony, uh, you know, showing everyone that she was just playing a role when she was pretending to have amnesia or whatever you would say she was doing. Um, but with as long as it spanned, they could have built out more for Mariah. I would have liked to see Mariah do more in this first title reign of hers. She had some good TV matches. Um, am I missing something? Because I was trying to think the other day, and correct me if I'm wrong. Did she have a pay-per-view match not against Tony since she's been champion?
Didn't she have one against Thunder Rosa? Wasn't
Yes,
it like the death match or something?
she did. Okay, so she had the Thunder Rose. So that was really the only one, because everything else she did, she actually beat Harley Cameron. She beat Anna Jay, right?
Bit Willow.
Yeah, she's had a lot of TV stuff. So Thunder Rosa was the one that she had. And forgive me everyone for forgetting that. That's the one where I was at the Rams game, so I didn't get to watch it. That's the only pay-per-view that
Hmm.
I missed
Yeah. Yep.
watching live.
Yeah, I echoed everything you said. I think that the only drawback I have with Mariah and Tony's feud is that to get to each other, they kind of did nothing in the middle. Like there
Yeah.
was no substantial feuds that Tony had independent of Mariah. Everything was a connecting dot to Mariah, or everything was a connecting dot back to Tony. And
Yeah.
so they had to stretch this thing out for the venues, right? They wanted Mariah to win in her home country. They wanted Tony to win in her home country. So they had to stretch this thing out. But they could have done a better job in the chapters of the Mariah main title run.
Yeah.
Like she could have had maybe another blood feud in there before she got back to Tony.
Or
And
a
that
real
would have
program
been
with
good.
literally the way they booked it. Because now that I recall, the Thunder Rosa thing got nasty, and they had the
Yeah.
the Tijuana Street rule. So I remember all that now. But if again, it's just like we always advocate, more room on the card for women. A Willow feud would have been good for her and Willow in the middle there. That landed on a pay per view. If Willow took a loss anyway, why not on a pay per view? Um, I'm very happy that Tony did the right thing though and put it in the main event.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't. It's not a. It's not a pay per view, so it's not the first AEW women's pay per view. What do we call it? A special.
I
So they've
call it
made
like a Clash of Champions. Yeah,
yeah
like a
they've
TV
main evented a
special.
TV special. So um, that's two women's main events so far this year. We only had two all of last year, so we're on a much better
Progress.
path than AEW for sure.
Yeah, progress. So I think we covered the week that was in AEW. Now we have to get to at least my main event for this week. And we're gonna get to the WWE main roster stuff here in a sec, but we got to talk about NXT.
Yep.
We got to talk about NXT. So I'll set the stage. NXT Vengeance yesterday afternoon, 6 o'clock Eastern, early start times for these WWE premium live events now because of UFC. And it was in Washington, D.C., a city that is a very hot wrestling city historically.
Yep.
I'm being a little bit of a historian here, but let me set the stage. The original WWF, which is, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, pre WWF, pre WWE, Vince McMahon Sr., he started out promoting in Washington, D.C. So Washington is actually the first home of what is now the WWE. Historically, a very hot wrestling city. Bobo Brazil, Bruno Sammartino, a lot of the old school folks sold out a lot of did a lot of business in Washington. It's a hot NWA city because it's kind of in that Baltimore, Maryland, Washington. As you get to the south, you come from the east, it's kind of a center point. So
Yep.
hot crowds. So we had two women's matches. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. They're going to be two of my favorite women's matches, hopefully, by the time we get to the end of the year. Because I loved both of these matches. I thought they had the right result. We'll get to the main event in a sec, but let's start with the opening match. We had Fallon Henley defending the NXT North American Women's Championship against the Dark Angel, the one and only Stephanie Vaquer. Uh, what did you think of the match?
Stephanie's so good.
She
She's just
is.
so
She
good.
is.
I actually watched the match and I was just kind of marveling at how smooth she is in the ring, how strong of a presence she has. It reminded me of the first time I saw her, which was against the first match against Mercedes. And it took about, sometimes you see someone for the first time and about 5 minutes into the match, you're like, oh man, this person's pretty good. Um, and I remember at Resurgence that it got 30 seconds into the match, and I was like, and maybe because I know how well Mercedes moves and how good she moves, and I could see Steph. I just it took less than 30 seconds for me to realize Stephanie was all that. Um, and knowing, having a pretty good feeling she was going to win this match, I was watching it and just going, "What a champion!" You know, someone who, as you watch her wrestle and she's about to win a title, it all culminates and the crowd goes, of course she won the title. Of course she's the champion. Because like everything just works. She's just that good. And like it's almost weird to have her involved with the main title later, but it's not because she's that good. You know what I'm saying? You almost have to acknowledge it. Um I think just even the finish, how smooth she hit that corkscrew. She landed flush and flat. It was just such a beautiful finish. Um, I think her stock is as high as any woman in the world right now. I mean, I, you could have her show up and pin Rhea Ripley, and I wouldn't blink. You know,
Yeah, no, I
because she
agree.
moves in such a way that whatever crowd you did that in front of, like, if she ever got free again and you wanted her to you know have a third match with Mercedes and to tell a fun story, to tell a story, she dusts Mercedes. Like, it would be shocking, but it also wouldn't be like a burial. It would just be like, shit, like you could have her beat any woman on the planet and the crowd would accept it.
Yeah, that's you said it. You said it brilliantly. Like I'm at a point now with her that, I mean, if you're to tell me she's the best women's wrestler in the world, I'm not really going to argue with you at this point. Like I'm not
I have
saying
her number
she's
two still, but
I'm not going to say that I would agree with it
yeah.
necessarily, but I'm also not going to argue it because at this point her bar is so high. She's so good in the ring. But it's not even that. it's just the aura she carries with her.
Mm-hmm.
She is such a badass, and she is the perfect way to book a baby face. Like what they have done with her is what they have lacked to do for years with baby faces. Years. And for some reason, they have nailed this one. And it could be why they spent so much money and resources to get her, because they had a vision for her and they just felt like, okay, this is the one person who can. I'm going to get into movies here. So, one of my favorite movies of all time is Devil Wears Prada. And
Love that movie too.
right, it's one of my favorite movies. I've read the book. There's a book that the movie story and the book are a little bit different. But to set the stage, Meryl Streep's character is basically a homage to Anna Winter of Vogue, right? That's really what it is. Well, when they had the script and the studio purchased the script for Devil Wears Prada, they had one condition that the movie would never get made if Meryl Streep couldn't play Anna, that character. Like if they could not get Meryl Streep, they're not going to make the movie. They're like, it's over. I feel like WWE had this badass aura woman's character in their hip pocket. Like they had this thing laid out, but they're like, if we can't get Stephanie Vaquer, this character doesn't exist. We're going to get rid of the character and pretend like we didn't have it in our ecosystem, because she plays this character and the aura that they want out of this character perfectly. The Dark Angel. She walks the NXT parking lot, nobody messes with her. She goes backstage. She goes and gets in guys' faces who are much bigger than her. Like, hey, where is she? And people get scared of her. She's out there against Fatal Influence, and she beat the shit out of all three of them and still won the title. And it's believable. Like, it wasn't like, oh, this is ridiculous. Like, how is she able to do this? It was like she got beat up, she got beat up, she got beat up by the outside interference. And then finally she reached the boiling point where she laid out Fallon and said, I'm going to go take these two out, go back in the ring and win my title. Like she's amazing. Like she's
Yeah.
amazing. I cannot tell you how unbelievable. Like I knew she would do good in NXT. I didn't think she would do this. Like
Yeah.
I'm at a point now where I was like, oh, they're this good. Okay, I'm going to use this example. I know. We're supposed to say football till the end of the show. But I, as an Eagles fan, didn't think Saquon Barkley was this good. I'll admit that. I can readily admit that now. I was like, yeah, I know he's good, but what can he really do for us? I knew Stephanie Vaquer was good. I didn't think she was this. That's my
I'm
analogy.
I'm gonna put it out there on February 16th of the year 2025. I feel like the Rumble booking on the women's has been, especially with Charlotte winning, a little bit tired, and there's just no layering to it. It's almost like, the biggest shock they ever did was Ronda Rousey, and that wasn't a good shock. So, um, for the most part, everything else has been pretty paint by numbers, right? You knew Bailey should win last year.
Hmm.
That was still great
Bianca,
because at least told Bianca, Rhea, Charlotte, Asuka,
Becky.
Charlotte, Becky. Stephanie Vaquer should win next year's Royal Rumble. And they shouldn't put her on the main roster way far ahead of time to do it. Like, they should have her on the main roster like Roxanne was starting in December ish, have her around, not official, and have her win the freaking Rumble next year and just shoot her all the way into the stratosphere because she can absolutely handle it. Um, carries herself like it's like watching a movie where that person is the hero, the winner, the good guy, they're gonna win out in the end. She just carries, to your point, she's walking through the NXT parking lot, and anytime I've ever watched anyone walk through the parking lot by themselves, you're like, oh, what's gonna happen to them? And I almost inherently knew that nothing was gonna happen to her. Right? Like,
Yeah, I think that whole setup was to set up her next feud, which clearly is going to be Lola Vice, right? Like
Yeah.
I think that's her next opponent, which is going to be a phenomenal. I mean, it's going to be a phenomenal feud. The thing with Stephanie is if they were to if I were to get an internet report that said Stephanie Vaquer is going to play the new Batman, I would believe it. Like I would literally believe she could play Batwoman because she has that kind of aura to me. Like she's almost like a superhero at this point. And honestly, I love your Royal Rumble idea. I'm going to take it a step further. I think not only she should do it, she should be number one, and she should eliminate the other 29 women. Like
All
that's what
right.
they should do. They should have her come in. She eliminates two all the way to 30, and that's how she wins the Rumble because I could believe it. Like I could legitimately believe her doing it. I am so I have purchased as much Stephanie Vacour stock as is available, and I don't know if there's any more out there. I think it's been scooped up. I think she's like Nvidia at this point, or she's, you know, Meta when it was first went public. Like she's as hot as any woman in the world. And her aura is unbelievable. Like the crowd loves her. They're so into her. And that she's actually on that list of can you even turn her heel at this point because they'll just cheer her. It might even be worse. Like I was thinking
Yeah.
about a bad ass evil Stephanie where she turns and does what's evil, that could be even more over. And now you're finished. Like you'll crush every baby face. So I mean, they're gonna have a real they have a real I know to you it's not that complicated because you have always thought of the two massive free agents they signed last year that Stephanie was always to you like you had her a tier above Julia, right? Like you always
I
did.
do. Yeah.
And I'm not saying I disagree, by the way, and I'll get to Julia here in a sec, but in those two, they have the two women that they have built a TV show that is routinely trouncing Dynamite every week in the ratings. And these are the two individuals who have the highest rated segments. You almost can keep them apart for a while and let them build their own stories separate, right? But at
Yeah, I
some
mean,
point, they got to clash.
I saw someone tweet yesterday that a lot of the women that they had plans for um, had to go down a peg on the ladder when they brought Julia and Stephanie in, and the person wasn't even complaining. They were just stating a fact. It's a fact of life. It's like a business fact. It's sometimes stuff
Mhm.
happens, and it's
Yeah.
nothing against those women. It's not like those women came up short, but um, it
Yeah.
would be bad business for them not to ride this. I think the year of NXT 2025 is going to be Stephanie and Julia almost entirely. I wouldn't expect anyone else to touch those belts. I don't even know how you're going to get the damn North American title off of Stephanie, to be honest with you. Not that they have to worry about that anytime soon. Maybe she vacates it a la Asuka, which I don't agree with. But hey, anyway,
Are
she
you
just
sure they're
won
not
it.
going to do? Are you sure they're not going to do Hogan Warrior,
No, they might. But then she'll
where the
win,
winner?
and then she
Yeah,
vacates.
yeah, the winner of that match vacates one of the lesser belt, and then the loser goes to the main roster, right?
Probably what they're going to do. And the tweet had pointed out that like Lola Vice, Sol Roca, Jada Parker. There's an alternate universe where Stephanie and Julia, one or both of them, don't sign, and one of those women, along with Cora Jade, become champion this year.
Mhm.
And I only want to bring it up not as a negative. I want to bring it up as a positive. Stephanie and Julia, NXT's freaking stacked because these
Yeah,
women are all on that path where they're going to grow into something. So I actually like what I see from Stephanie enough that I think as she beats people, it's going to, like we talked about with Mercedes, she's going to have really good matches with people. Um, they could have her bury everyone. It's Barry, and your idea is could she throw everyone out of the Rumble and all that? We're very high on her, but she's gonna have good matches with people, so I think the feuds are gonna go well. I think the Lola Vice feud is gonna be really really good. Lola
that
can talk,
was yeah,
and
and I think
she's only gonna get better in the ring.
Lola is enough of a badass where she can face Stephanie, and you could. You know she's not going to win, but you can believe she can win because she's enough of a badass, right? And I think with Fallon Henley, that was the best match she's ever had by far. Like that was the best match she's ever had, and that's a credit to her. But it's also a lot of credit to Stephanie. Stephanie's that good in the ring. She's unbelievable. But as good as that match was, it was not the best match of the show. It wasn't
No,
even the best women's match on the show.
it was not.
So the main event was a fatal four-way match for the NXT Women's World Championship. You had the champion, the beautiful Madness, Julia, defending against the former champion in Roxanne, one of the all-time great women's wrestlers ever in Bailey, and an up-and-coming superstar in Cora Jade, who also happens to be, well, maybe not after last night, but was Roxanne's best friend. So
Right.
you had this four-way match, and going in, I'll admit this, I was happy when it was a three-way, and I was a little disappointed that went to a four-way because I was like, ooh, I know Cora is a great character, but can she hang with the other three? 'Cause the other three are
Right.
top-notch talents. I was wrong. Cora did her thing. Cora was great in this match. They were all great in this match. This match
Yep.
was phenomenal. This was one of the best women's four-way matches I have ever seen. And
Yep.
and I know this is an homage match to the Four Horsewomen match, the one that happened exactly 10 years ago. But that match did not main event, but that was the match where the Sasha Banks character was kind of elevated to the next level, beating Charlotte, beating Becky, beating Bailey. And this fatal four-way match, and I'm going to come out right and say it, I thought this match might have been better. I have to go back and
Yeah.
watch them side by side, but I thought this match was tremendous. You messaged me, you said, "Hey, they all brought it. It's a good match. You'll enjoy it." I was blown away by how good this match was. This was great. So right now, if the year ended today, I have this as my match of the year. What about you?
100%. Same. 100%.
Yeah.
It's so early. Um, I in not so many words, I tweeted that last night. Like, if you read my tweets, you're like, that I felt like this was the best match of the year, women's match for sure. Um, I didn't come out and say it, but it's absolutely my favorite match of the year, men's or women's. Um, would it win match of the year? No, because you've got, I think Will Ospreay's got 75 5-star matches since the beginning of the year. However, Dave, those
Mhm.
people grade him. But no, I'm being facetious. This is why I watch wrestling. This is why I watch wrestling.
Yeah.
I had NBA on my TV, and I was watching this match on my phone on Peacock, and it got about 5 minutes into the match where they had did the spot where they did kind of the rolling pin spot thing where they kind of, and I said, you know what, they brought it tonight. I hit pause on Peacock, and I got it into the app and put on my main TV, um, and then put the NBA on my phone. Watch Cade not do very well in the 3-point contest, but um, I loved this match. I thought Dan showed why she's one of the greatest women's wrestlers in the world. She was the glue. Um, the match was sloppy at times, but it was sloppy in exactly the right way that matches should be sloppy. That when it got sloppy, it just got more violent. The core tenet of the horsewomen is not that they never have a rough spot in the ring. It's that they all trust each other enough that if things get choppy, they have the trust to just drop each other on their head or throw a forearm or kick them. Let choppy spots slow the match down. They just kind of stiff each other through it, for better or worse. I mean, you got Charlotte dropping Sasha from the top belt or the top rope in SummerSlam was a little probably too dangerous, but there were a couple times last night where the transitions got a little rough, and they basically just need each other in the face to get through it. I think the women, all four of them, showed a lot of trust. When it got off track, I thought Roxanne was the glue who brought it all back together. Um, I actually really, really had an epiphany with Cora Jade in this match. I saw her working and thriving on main roster. She's always had the character work. I think she's a little different than anyone else they have in the WWE right now. She doesn't fit in any specific box. But this woman who grew up loving wrestling fits that ideal of like, not every move I do is going to be smooth, but we're going to fight through it and we're just going to tussle and it's going to feel like a fight. If it doesn't feel like a wrestling match, like a 5-star match, it will feel like a fight. And that's how wrestling should be. If you're fighting someone, it's not all going to go smoothly, right?
Yeah.
And I thought Cora had some of the best spots. Two of the times the crowd started to "This is awesome," it was off of something that Cora did. Um, and I just thought actually that she not only held her own, but she was a bright spot in the match. So I was very entertained by this match, and I will rewatch this. And when someone says four-way match, this is top two or three in what I'll think of what you're hoping to get out of a match.
Uh, there was a four-way match that I can remember I liked as much as this, and it was not a women's one, it was a men's one where it was like it was Shawn Michaels, Edge, Randy Orton, and Cena. Where the finish was where Shawn Michaels super kicked Cena, Cena fell onto Randy Orton.
Yeah,
That match was unbelievable, that four-way. This match reminded me of that match. And the thing I loved about this match, well, first off, the Tower of Doom spot was so great because Julia did the double underhook suplex. She
yeah,
didn't just take her over
suplex.
with a back suplex. She just did the vertical suplex. She did the underhook. This was the first match I felt like they let the shackles off Julia a little bit. One of the biggest complaints that a Joshi wrestling fan has, such as I don't say I have it, but they do, is when Asuka or Kana or Io or Kyrie or now Julia or Julia come to WWE, they get WWEized. They don't work the Joshi aggressive, hit you in your face, almost look like you're getting a concussion every time you swing style, which Joshi is very hard hitting. This is the first match I felt like they unbuckled the shackles a little bit with Julia. She was
Yeah,
crisp. She was confident. She was on point. Her stuff looked like it meant something. Every punch had a oomph to it. And again, I am of the panel here. I am the Julia fan, and I love Julia. I am if you ever, and this is for anybody out there and you, if you go back, go watch Julia's heel work in Stardom.
mm-hmm.
Go watch the heel Julia, where she would basically make you bleed at the press conference and walk away. That's where the term "the beautiful madness" comes from, because she was
Yep.
psychopath. She was the a beautiful psychopath. I loved her in this match. But she to me, I hate to say it, she's the one that obviously they protected for a reason. But I felt like when she wasn't involved, I felt like there were parts where the match was smoother when she was kind of on the floor. Because I think she's still getting acclimated to this style. So they have to kind of protect her. But Bailey brought it. I mean, Bailey was phenomenal here. Roxanne was just unbelievable. Roxanne's on a heater too.
Yeah, Roxanne, if you're asking who he wants in his federation, his wrestling group, um, it's almost very clearly Mercedes, Roxanne, and Stephanie for me.
Mhm.
Um,
That's a
I,
good
I
three.
love I love Roxanne's work. Again, she smoothed out a lot of the bumps in this, and whoever produced this match had a beautiful vision, because a four-way match, it's not usually the issue is not usually the work. Sometimes it's the production and making it make sense. I thought it was um as good of a, you got the four horsewoman four-way. There's the Sasha Ember, was it Ruby Alexa four-way, which was
Yeah.
very good, where Ember plastered Mercedes into the
Yeah.
side. I mean, it's one of the coolest spots ever. That was a good one. On the men's side, I think my favorite one's actually a 5-pack. I don't remember all five, but I remember Brock, Roman, Braun, Samoa
SummerSlam.
Joe. Who was the
SummerSlam.
fifth? Who was the fifth?
Okay, so let's see. Brock Lesnar, Samoa Joe, Roman
Roman.
Reigns, Braun Strowman,
Was it Cena?
and no,
It
wasn't
was
Cena.
Great Balls of Fire, right?
It was no, but I know the five-way you're talking
Yeah,
about where everybody Brock got like stretchered out and came back.
yeah. But so that one was one of the ones I remember being a really good multi-person match. But and this finishing sequence, I would watch a clip of this finishing sequence over and over and over again. Um, Cora comes in and does the Sasha Banks Revolution pinfall attempt on how she got Charlotte. I don't if everyone didn't catch that.
Yep.
Um, Cora does a backslide on Roxanne, and she kicks out, right? Then Cora hits her finisher. So Cora had this match won. She hits her double arm DDT finisher. And then Julia just crushes her with a flying knee. And then she goes, what did she go? Knee to Roxanne. Did she knee Roxanne twice?
Hmm.
Kneed Roxanne twice, and then the finisher,
By the way,
brainbuster.
it was a four-way, and you had the
What?
right four.
Okay.
SummerSlam. So it's 2017 SummerSlam, which is the same SummerSlam we referenced earlier, where Mercedes beat Alexa Bliss.
Yep.
The main event was Samoa Joe versus Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the title. They took Lesnar out early. Lesnar came back to win, but that match was phenomenal.
It's
Yes.
so fun. It's so good.
Yeah, it was good.
So I just it's funny because Bailey's in this match, but we had, I mean, almost all year we were begging the WWE main roster to bring it. And we had some people go, oh, what do you mean bring it? Liv and Rhea, they're great. And we've never said Liv and Rhea weren't great. But damn it, when you want feuds and major events to end with a match like this, and I I get so excited watching a match like
It
this
was
for the
great.
women because they get put in the main event and they deliver something that is going to inspire people to keep watching women's wrestling. Cora came out better. Roxanne came out better. Bailey came out continuing to be legendary, and she's Bailey, and Julia came out better. I did see some people saying that Bailey and Julia were sloppy at times. I don't think it ever detracted from the match. They're not as smooth as Roxanne. I don't think it was ever like where I got taken out of the match where I'm like, oh, they're setting something up that just doesn't work. Hey, get in a fight with someone, you're probably going to trip over
Yeah.
yourself a couple times. Like it just all felt like a fight to me. Like they were
I
trying to
don't
win, so it didn't hurt it for me.
I don't think, anybody who says that has really watched a Julia match outside of WWE, because Julia is so not doing what she is comfortable doing right now. Because everything she does is very stiff. And WWE does not work a stiff style. They don't. And
Right?
and maybe they're right for doing that. Maybe the Joshi style that I love borders on dangerous. I don't know. I
Yeah.
haven't had the statistics on it, but I will admit that of the four women in this match, if you knew nothing about wrestling and you watched it and you were to rank the in-ring performances of the four women in this match, Julia probably is number four. Like, I could readily admit I am probably as big a Julia fan as there is, But in that match last night, she was 4 of 4. I would have Roxanne 1. I probably have to give Cora 2, Bailey 3, Julia 4, probably.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm gonna flip that to a positive. Bailey didn't need to look like the best person in the match, nor did she try to.
Yeah. And Julia didn't either because she's going to win.
Win. It was a beautiful piece of work. And Roxanne could take the pin. It doesn't hurt Roxanne at all taking the pin
No.
because she's a double champion. She was going for the first 3-time champion. She got pinned on the way out of the territory. Cora's not going up with her. Cora's not going to the main roster with her. So Roxanne goes to main. You don't want Cora taking that pin because presumably Cora is going to be a player in NXT. But if that match did anything, it solidified Julia being the champion because she pinned
Yeah.
Roxanne again, and Cora much more like a legit threat to
Hmm.
Julia coming out of that match. So it was just a beautiful piece of work. Kudos to Sean, whoever produced it. Perfect.
Because we're gonna pause Roxanne because I want to get your thoughts on something about Roxanne specifically in WrestleMania. So before we do that, after the match ended, Julia won.
Yep.
Stephanie came out for the celebration. Very looking back, it's kind of a horrific homage, but it is a Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero homage from 2004, where the two really good friends both became champions and hugged and
Yeah.
celebrated. This was set up for a different reason, which is you heard the siren. It wasn't Big Papa Pump, it was Jordana Grace, who is now obviously on the NXT roster permanently, no longer with TNA. She's a WWE employee assigned. And she's coming out looking at both NXT champions and like, who's my next? Who am I going after? Am I going after Stephanie or am I going after Julia? Nice little piece of business there. I think it's going to be her and Julia at WrestleMania. And I think it's going to be Stephanie and Lola Vice. That's my prediction for the stand and deliver card at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. My only pause on that is Jordan is recognized well enough with the WWE crowd that you could have her debut on main and flatten Tiffany Stratton and take the belt. And while it may not be good booking, people would be like, what a monster. Oh my God, you know? Um, I don't know that I would have put her in NXT. I think she got some of the biggest pops the last two
Hmm.
Rumbles. She's got all that history with Naomi. So is she going to get a run with the NXT belt? You
I,
know,
I, from what I understand in reading the tea leaves, she's in NXT for a very short time, and she's going to be on the main roster by the summer. So it's like she's almost getting her sea legs in WWE production and all that, but she's going to be on the main roster. She was not signed as an NXT talent. She was signed as a main roster talent, but I think a match with Julia on the biggest stage they have is a way to kind of get her feet wet
with the
almost.
production and all that. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, she could lose to Julia and it's not going to hurt her that much. I think they're probably also doing it because there's not really a good way to have her. There's not anyone good for her to come on to main roster and flatten right
Yeah.
now. You could have had her come out and she could easily flatten Chelsea and take the US title or
Mhm.
Lyra, although I'd love to see them actually at least they've given Chelsea matches. They haven't given Lyra any matches for that belt
No.
really. So I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying Jordan Grace is a big enough name and
Yep.
recognized well enough that she could basically come out onto main and she could go 50-50 with Bianca Belair for 20 minutes
It-
and draw or you know what I mean? Like no one would be like, oh my God.
Yeah, she's in essence the female Braun Breaker. In essence, that's what it is, right? Like
Yep.
she's believable to beat anybody. So I want to pause with Roxanne. So Roxanne has a match on Monday Night Raw. We're going to go to main roster here to qualify for the Elimination Chamber.
Yep.
Are we sure that it's not Rhea Ripley versus Roxanne at WrestleMania? Are we positive? So let me set the stage here. Or is it, or I'll get to EO in a sec. So for those who did not watch Monday Night Raw, Rhea Ripley, because she has the authority, pretty much made a match on the Raw after Elimination Chamber where she's defending the title against EO, feeling bad that she cost EO a spot in the chamber. Well, because of that, it opened up a spot for somebody else in the chamber, which is Roxanne. I think Roxanne, who does she fight Monday night to get to the chamber?
Raquel.
Okay. So if Roxanne, now, okay, I hope that WWE doesn't do Raquel wins. So that way the story is Raquel tries to help Liv win the chamber, which they could go in that direction. But I'm Triple H, if you can hear me, I'm giving you a little bit of credit here. I think Bianca Belair and Naomi are going to cost Raquel this match because Bianca and Naomi have already said we're going to Raw to meet Liv and Raquel. So it would not shock me if A, Bianca and Naomi didn't cost Raquel this match, or B, take her out to set up somebody else fighting Roxanne to get Roxanne into the chamber. But here's where I'm going. Everybody thinks the chamber, okay, because we know now the winner of the chamber is fighting Rhea Ripley. And the reason we know that is because your favorite wrestler, Charlotte Flair, made her intentions known and I'll get to that segment. I have some thoughts on that whole segment. Um, she said, I want Tiffany. Okay, so she and Tiffany are locked in, which by the way, I correctly predicted a long time ago. So I want to, Barry Horowitz pat myself on the back there because I had Charlotte Tiffany from the beginning. Roxanne wins the chamber. Why can't she fight Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania? She's gonna lose, by the way, but why can't she fight her?
No, I mean, something's got to happen because I was very convinced that the only route that they were going to be able to go on this was Bianca, the way that it was setting up. But we got that clue on the Who Done It that Liv and Raquel were in the video at least. So now Naomi and Bianca believe that they did it as far as injuring Jade. And to be fair to Triple H, people have found that he has not changed the booking on this. If you slow down the video of Jade being loaded into the ambulance, you could see Raquel in the background. So this wasn't like a post production edit. So whatever story he's telling, he's been telling this whole time. So it can't be Liv and Raquel. That's just too forward. That's not wrestling. So
Mhm.
everyone thinks it's going to be Naomi now. Well, if it's going to be Naomi, then clearly that's where Bianca's attention is going to be around Mania.
Mhm.
So, which I love, by the way, if that's the case.
Yeah.
So then who's left for? Well, you would say it'd be EO in the match after. Are they going to do a one-on-one right after Elimination Chamber and then just run another one-on-one later? So I don't see that.
Well,
So they're
somebody
doing
has
a
to win the
pretty
elimination chamber, right?
yeah. So they're doing a pretty good job keeping it up in the air on who it would be. I thought Bailey was going to cost Roxanne the title or cost Roxanne the chance, and you'd have Liv and Raquel along with Bianca and Naomi in the chamber, kind of to even things out. That could still happen, but there's some interesting layers there because Bianca and Naomi are not just going to show up all pissed to Monday Night Raw and not interfere with Liv and Raquel's night. That's what they're there for.
Help me out. Who's in the chamber? So you have Alexa Bliss, Naomi, Bianca, Bailey,
Liv,
Liv, and then
and
the
then
six.
yeah,
If you do Raquel, you have Naomi, Bianca, Bailey, Alexa, Raquel, Liv.
yeah.
That is two to me stock booking. Because at that point, I think the Elimination Chamber, it has no intrigue to me because we know it's not Bailey. Could it be? Somebody brought this up. Could it be Bailey versus Rhea Ripley?
Um, well, they've wrestled once, and it was so memorable that Bailey said, "You've never beat me," and her own fans were like, "Yeah, yeah, she did. She did
Yeah.
beat you."
No, I don't remember having too much interest in a Bailey Rhea Ripley match, and I like both women, a lot. To me, Roxanne is the play here. Roxanne gets in the chamber, she wins the chamber. I think what you can do on Monday night after the elimination, this is what I would do. If I had the pen or the pencil, Rhea Io fight to a draw. That way Io gets her WrestleMania match against Rhea and Roxanne. And it's a three-way. You can protect Io that way too, because if let's say Io, you want to give the belt to Io, you can have her pin Roxanne. And that way Rhea doesn't take a pin.
I don't see Rhea losing the belt to anyone.
I know. I
Yeah,
look. This is Fantasy Island here. You can call me
I know.
Tattoo. I don't think Rhea Ripley is losing for a long time. I think the next time Rhea Ripley eats a pinfall, it's going to be to Bianca Belair. I don't know when that is. And I'm not even sure anymore that she's going to lose to Bianca. They might just keep the Rhea train going for a long time because
Might
clearly
be Stephanie Vaquer.
it might be Steph. You know what? This is going to sound really bad. I would rather almost that than Bianca because Bianca is so predictable, but I want to see the Bianca Rhea match. But I also don't think Bianca's ever going to lose at WrestleMania. That's going to be her gimmick. So I think she will beat Rhea at
Well,
WrestleMania.
so let's, this is all about giving women's wrestling credit and also dreaming some things into the universe.
Yeah.
Bianca's better in the ring than Rhea is at this
Yes.
point.
Yes.
I I
100%.
think the only thing that was missing from Bianca's game was she didn't work under as well as she could, and having all these tag matches with Jade as the hot tag, Bianca is an elite
Yes.
worker from under. Don't get me wrong, don't get mad, people. She's always been great at selling. She's always the facial expressions, the hair whipping. She sells and bumps her ass off. But working under is where you're taking bumps and not chaining everything together to the next spot, because people have this tendency of taking a bump, selling it, and then they move to the next spot because that's where their brain's going, and they move like normal to the next spot. People who work under elite are selling across the ring, they're in peril. The greatest work I've ever seen anyone do under in a tag match is, if you want to know what working under looks like, Sasha Banks and Bailey versus Nia Jax and Shayna, when Mercedes as Sasha Banks did a face turn in a crowdless match, which is a freaking magic trick if you think about it. But Bianca has gotten so good at working under that I think she's one of the most complete wrestlers in the world now. And so let me wish Stephanie Vaquer Bianca Belair into the universe.
That would be great. I think Stephanie, in my opinion, I'm sorry, let me take that back. I think Bianca is one of the five best women's wrestlers in the world, and I don't think Rhea is.
Yeah.
And that could be Rhea could be seven, she could be eight, she could be 10. I don't think she's five. And I think Bianca is a better overall performer than Rhea Ripley. And I think it's not because Rhea Ripley isn't capable. I think because for the last 2 years, Rhea Ripley has been told, be a character, be an aura machine, be the most over woman in the world, but not necessarily be the in-ring technician. Because if you go back and watch Rhea Ripley in NXT, or you go back and watch early Rhea stuff, she's really good.
Oh,
But
she's one of the better bumper. She's one of the better big, for, she's not really that big of a person, which is funny, but in the women's division they play her off as so big. She's one of the better bumpers for a strength character that you've ever
mhm,
seen.
she's great.
But
Yeah.
um yeah, I don't I you know what? I don't know who she's wrestling at WrestleMania. I don't know what the match is, and it's far less predictable than the other side was. So if
I
we
would
get Bianca Naomi with Naomi turning heel, and Io and Rhea and Roxanne or something like that, and all those land on Mania, um, I would be we'd be halfway to me giving Triple H some kudos. The part we'd be missing is what are Bailey and Liv doing, because those are two women who I think
I
deserve to
know
be
who
on the
Liv is.
card.
Liv is fighting. Liv is. I hate to say it. I think Liv is fighting. I think Liv and Raquel are defending the tag belts against Alexa Bliss and a partner.
Okay, so
Because
they'll
to
win.
me,
They'll win the belts in the next month.
I think you're going to start to see the Naomi turn. I could see Naomi and Liv winning the tag belt, or Liv and Raquel winning the tag belts on Friday on SmackDown. I can see Bianca and Naomi costing Raquel the chamber. I can see Friday night they book the tag match. I could see Liv and Raquel winning the tag belts. So that way, Liv goes into the chamber. You almost know now she can't win the chamber because she's a tag champ. And I think that's when you fully see the Naomi turn flush out in the chamber. That's how I would do
I'm
it.
s- I'm so freaking excited for what this Naomi turn could be, because it would be one of the freshest things done on WWE television for a woman in a long time,
Yeah.
and main roster. And I mean, we're talking like Bailey heel turn levels of, oh shit, did that really happen?
Hmm.
Um, she came out and killed the Bailey buddies. Um, I just I I just get such a vibe from Naomi that she has so much creative energy that's
Hmm.
been flowing up in her that hasn't been let out, because she's ultimately been the exact same person on WWE TV for 9 years.
I think Naomi has the potential, if they do it right, to be the hottest woman in wrestling. Like, seriously. I think Naomi is so talented that if they gave her a proper heel character, I think she could be the hottest thing in wrestling to the point where
But
she
the,
gets people to change plans.
but she have to break Bianca's WrestleMania streak to
No,
do that?
she can lose to Bianca and then still beat Bianca down the road, right? Like she can lose to Bianca at Mania, but then she goes even darker and beats Bianca later. Because I think at WrestleMania, Jade comes back and costs Naomi. And I think that's the
Okay,
story that they have to tell, right? But to
yeah,
me, the way you do the Naomi heel character is Naomi does copy from Bailey. She burns the glow. She gets rid of all that stuff. There's no more laser light show and she comes out. You're not feeling good. She's got all black. She's wearing, all black Air Forces. She's coming out and she's business. And I think that's what you have to do with her. But I hope they go in that direction. That's what I see. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I see. I want to see Liv and Raquel get the tag belts quick because to
yeah.
me, then it signals, okay, we're coming to an end of Bianca as a tag wrestler, Naomi as a tag wrestler. I think they both can thrive. I mean, Bianca is Bianca, but like I think there's a lot with Naomi as a singles character. So that's what I want to see. Now, the reason we have all this speculation of Rhea is because we know who Charlotte is fighting.
Yep.
So now we've come to the part of the podcast where we discuss Tiffy time. And I hate to say this, and hey, I want to shout out to a friend of the podcast, Tracy, wonderful wrestling fan, school teacher. She's a huge Tiffany Stratton fan, like I am. And we were both messaging when we found out that Charlotte was going to fight Tiffany, and we're like, ugh, this Tiffy time is coming to an end. It is coming to an end at WrestleMania. Charlotte is going to beat her and win the title. Now, they could shock us all and make Tiffany win. I doubt it. I think Charlotte's going to win. What before we set the stage of how Charlotte came out to accept, I guess, to take on Tiffany, what did you think of Tiffany Naya and how they incorporated the hometown girl this Saturday night as Trish Stratus, or in 2 weeks, Trish Stratus, into this feud now?
Yeah, I I was following along with that, and then when Trish came out and the Nia thing, and I was just like, are they not going to pull the trigger on the Charlotte Flair? It was just getting convoluted there for a second. I was like, I real quick on Nia. Wrestling Observer Awards came out. She got voted worst wrestler, and all I have to say about that is that Raj and I decided to do this podcast here because often what gets published in the circles of wrestling are very one-sided opinions where you have women's wrestling not getting the credit it deserves and often getting trash when it doesn't deserve it. The idea that Nia was the worst performer in the world last year is a joke. And what our good friend Nadia would say is that's a neckbeard pull. I want to vouch for Nia. Nia had a phenomenal 2024, and you got a bunch of whiny bitches who, are voting against her, but she did not have a bad 2024. This idea that she was the worst worker, I know she doesn't care. She doesn't need me sticking up for her, but it just goes to show you like what we're consuming in wrestling and what some of these publications, we don't have an ESPN for wrestling. We have very, very slanted points of view. And Nia was a phenomenal heel last year. She did some of the best work in all of wrestling.
Yeah.
So,
Wait, hold on. Is this a real thing? Did Nia really get the word? Because I didn't look at. I only looked at who got women's MVP, which was Saray,
yeah,
but she was actually the worst.
Nia Jax. Um, and have uh I don't have an observer account or anything. But someone would. Okay, I'm sorry. Most overrated.
Okay, okay, okay. So okay, that also is
Bullshit.
wrong. That's also wrong. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think Nia was. I thought Nia was great in 2024. I thought Nia was the best WWE Women's Champion of 2024 in the main roster. I thought she was better than Bailey. I thought she was better than Rhea or Liv because she plays her role perfectly and she actually had stories about the title. Like her story wasn't about a guy, it wasn't a love interest. It was, I'm the queen of the ring, I'm the best, I'm the bully. And the reason you know she's great at what she does is because when Tiffany finally beat her, look at the pop that Tiffany got. And
100%.
look at how happy everybody was that Nia lost. And when Nia came out the next week and goes, "You ungrateful," like Nia is great on the microphone and she knows how to play the heel. And so I think we've lost the plot here of what overrated, not a good wrestler, not a good worker is. Nia is never going to be beloved as a babyface. They figured that out when they tried to make her the babyface in a feud with Alexa Bliss of all people, which
Right.
is one of the dumber booking things of all time. But I, what did you? Okay, so Nia and Tiffany, I thought were having a pretty good match.
Yeah.
And I really liked the different layers we saw in Tiffany. Like Tiffany is very strong, and you kind of saw it in this match where she gave her the spine buster or kind of
Yeah.
the slam twice. And having Trish there, I was like, why is Trish in Washington? Like, what is she doing here? And then it's like, oh, okay, Toronto, Elimination Chamber, an easy way to get Tiffany even more over is to have her in Toronto with Trish Stratus. That's
Yep.
easy money. And I think Tiffany and Trish against Nia and Candice, I like it for Elimination Chamber because it's a women's match. A, I was not expecting. And B, I think it's going to be very fun because I think you really see in Tiffany Stratton who they think, and I'm talking about me, the WWE talent brass sees as the next Trish Stratus. I think they might have finally found their new age Trish Stratus in Tiffany.
Right. Yeah, Trish comes back at the weirdest times. But yeah, it makes sense with the Toronto show. Um Concern about Tiffany, and it's Charlotte's fault. You got this edgy slash tweener character that gets over with the crowd, being edgy, not cookie cutter. And then she gets into a feud with Charlotte Flair, and they start making her play a vanilla cookie cutter babyface. Where have I seen this story before in 2016?
Yeah.
And it's like, because Charlotte has no layer besides being the meaner one, right? Like
Mhm.
she's got it. So they're fitting Tiffany's character to fit with the limited things Charlotte can do. And I don't mind if Charlotte's going to beat her, but if she's going to look like shit the whole time and then Charlotte beats her, it's not great.
No.
And she looked bad again.
That was well, I don't know what they were trying to do. So Tiffany's laid out from Nia, and Charlotte takes like she took like she Roman Reigns taught her how to walk to the ring. That took forever. I was like, hurry up. And then she gets to the ring. She has the chair that's already in the ring, sits down. Tiffy, are you there, Tiffy? Tiffy time. And then it was so condescending. It wasn't like, see, like, and I'm not comparing the two, but like when Harley and Mercedes are having the feud, and Mercedes is getting irritated by her and angry at her, she still didn't make Harley look like a bozo. Like she didn't like I felt like Harley came across great, even though, Mercedes like, get away from me. Like you're,
Called her
you
a
know,
loser, but she didn't make her look like a
no, she
loser.
didn't make her look like a loser. Whereas Tiffany is anything but a loser. She's the women's world champion, right? She's not Harley Cameron trying to get her second win. She's the damn champ who just, by the way, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, beat Bailey clean as a sheet in the middle of the ring, who's an all timer. She looked like crap. Like she's laying there, and Charlotte sits down and just condescendingly is like, yeah, I'll pick. Basically, what Charlotte said without saying it is, I'm picking you because you're easy
You're
and
the
I can
weakest
beat you.
link.
You're the
Yeah.
weakest link. And to me, you're not helping Tiffany. And you got something in Tiffany that they don't have very often, which is somebody who came up from NXT and organically got over like that. She got over just like that. She got over because she is somebody who connected with the crowd. It's Tiffy time. They like her look. They like how she wrestles. They like her moonsault, whatever. And here's the other thing, Charlotte, this is some advice from me to you. Please don't do the moonsault against Tiffany in this match because your moonsault is not as good as Tiffany's. And to me, if I'm Charlotte, I almost say, you know what? There's another reason why you're a bootleg of me. You have to take my move. And I would, if I'm Charlotte, I'd stay away from being an aerial person in this match because I don't know if she can keep up with Tiffany in that sense. Like Tiffany Swanton, she has one of the cleaner Swantons also.
Are
Tiffany's a
we
gifted athlete.
I,
Yeah.
I got a fun one for you. Are we going to see Charlotte wrestle between now and WrestleMania?
No, I don't think so.
And she had a real injury, a real
Yes,
serious
real.
injury. And people gave no credit, give wrestlers credit for coming back from injuries and how tough it could be. Mercedes was criticized for not wrestling for the 2 months after Big Business, but she was still getting into ring shape. I'm not saying Charlotte's not in ring shape, but I am saying that they definitely booked the Royal Rumble in a way to not put a whole lot of mileage on her. They had a 10-person at once elimination. You can't tell me that it wasn't
This
to
isn't,
shorten.
but you're not breaking news here or saying anything controversial. This was actually a report that came out
Okay.
in two different publications that A, Charlotte was winded in the Rumble match. She was gassed, and they booked the match in a way to not make her look winded or bad. That's why she didn't have a 5 minute match with Roxanne before she eliminated her. She
Right.
eliminated her right away. This was part of the story where she's still not back to 100%.
Yeah, and it's almost like if you use the Mercedes analogy, could Mercedes have done an 11-minute Rumble appearance around big business and then get 2 months off? She probably it's probably the same type of thing.
Yeah.
They don't do house shows like they used to though for her to be able to get that wind back. So I do wonder what that Mania match could look like.
I-
Um the other thing is, and I'm changing subjects here real quick, but Cora Jade was also very hurt, and I was very happy to see her last night because it does look like she's kind of probably all the way back,
Yep.
or even better than before. But Charlotte generally turns it on at Mania to have her best matches, and similar, she's gonna have to really knock off some ring rust because I agree with you. I don't think they even have her tag. I think they have her do attraction type stuff from now till then, which is 2 more months.
Well, here's the funny thing about it. I think her and Tiffany, I have two directions for them wrestling each other going. Either they're Bianca Belair and Io Sky, or they're Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks. There's no two other ways this can go. To me, they're either going to be wrestling soulmates or they're going to have no chemistry because they're very
Hey,
similar
Sasha and
styles.
Alexa have chemistry.
They do have chemistry, but I feel like for as talented as both of them are, I felt like I never got like the way she had the match with Carmella. I always expected her to have a match like that with Bliss. And
I felt like Great
and
Balls
Great
of
Balls
Fire was a good
was
one,
good. Yeah,
but
that was probably the best. I mean, they had a Raw match actually in Memphis. They had the SummerSlam match, and all three matches were good, but they weren't like next level. Like Charlotte and Tiffany are I mean, they've wrestled the same, right? Like, I mean, isn't Tiffany like a hybrid version of Charlotte? Kind of?
well, it's like when they had Lacey Evans kind of being the next, maybe Charlotte, because people forget Lacey had some like moonsaults and some aerial
Hmm.
stuff, but Tiffany is like turbocharged more athletic than Lacey is. So we'll see how that works because Lacey versus Charlotte was like throwing two by fours against each other. It just was not graceful.
You know what? We didn't even talk about Becky Lynch. And I mean, everybody's like, what about Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley? I actually think, and I could be so misguided here. I think the match for Becky Lynch is Nikki Bella
Mm,
because I got to be honest. Like, I've seen Becky Rhea at WrestleMania, and I've
hmm.
seen Rhea beat her in a very good match. And we know Charlotte's fighting Tiffany. The other one, and see, you can't even see, they ruined the story I always wanted, which was Becky makes a triumphant return and says, I'm going to go after the NXT title because I've never held it. She's already held it. So that story's gone. But Becky Julia would be awesome at WrestleMania. That would be an awesome, awesome match. And what a way to
So
cement Julia if Becky loses to her. But she's not going to lose in her first match back. So my point is, what do you do with Becky Lynch?
yeah, at this point, should we start taking bets if Becky's even going to be on the WrestleMania card?
I think if you were to take bets, you would probably be on the right side of winning because I think Becky maybe is the post Mania feud for somebody. Like, is Beck? Oh boy, is Becky the post Mania Charlotte feud when Charlotte wins the title?
God, it's crowded at the top, man. Bianca
It
hasn't
is
had the
very
title
crowded
in
at the
a
top.
minute. If you pull the string on a Naomi turn, you'd like to see her get a title run. Rhea's gonna have that belt in gridlock for a minute, deservedly so. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve it. She's a top
No,
star. Io, Roxanne, I'm glad
Somebody
they have
said
mid.
Becky Lyra WrestleMania
Oh yeah,
because
that's what I've heard.
Lyra did beat Becky for the NXT Women's title.
And that gets the IC title on the card. Hey,
Yeah,
you know
well,
what?
yeah, and Becky should win it
No, I
because then
think
that
I think Lyra should win it.
you think Lyra should beat Becky,
If Charlotte's beating Tiffany, yeah.
but isn't okay. Wouldn't you? Couldn't you make the case that Becky as the IC champ is Mercedes with the TBS title?
Yes, but I just think if you have this regressive mania card where Tiffany, I I'd pick Tiffany to beat Charlotte and Becky to beat Lyra because Tiffany's profile is
I,
much higher on the main roster than Lyra's
yes,
currently is. Not
I
nothing
I
against
agree.
Lyra, but if
I agree.
I think if you have both of them go over, I think you're gonna have this new set of fans that you know the people who are in love with Jey Uso are not the people who watch the Four Horsewomen come up. I'm not saying that he doesn't
No,
have fans in our age bracket, but the power behind how that Yeet thing is is a younger fan base that I would guarantee you Tiffany resonates just as well with or more than Charlotte and Becky do. So I think if you have Becky and Charlotte come back and just take two of the belts up, I think people are going to kind of put their hands in the air like, what?
I couldn't agree with you more. I think beating Tiffany is one of I know a lot of folks who listen to this podcast are probably not huge Tiffany fans the way I am, but I will say this, she's over and Charlotte isn't. And I don't care what anybody says, Charlotte has just returned and Tiffany is super over. And having her beat Tiffany, you could do the same level of damage you did to Rhea Ripley a long time ago when Charlotte beat Rhea. It took Rhea a long time to recover. And I think you have something in Tiffany. I'm not saying Tiffany shouldn't lose the title, but she shouldn't lose it to Charlotte at WrestleMania. Maybe she
Yeah,
loses it to Charlotte at SummerSlam or something, but she shouldn't lose it right away. I think you need Tiffany to get a nice title run of 7, 8 months, 9 months. She beats opponents, she looks strong, and finally loses. That's fine. But to your point, you're the new fans that have gotten you the Netflix deal and have made you all this money. They're not invested in Charlotte the way they are Tiffany. They're not invested. I mean, I could say it, they're not even invested in Roman Reigns the way they are Jey Uso. I
not
mean,
not not recently. No,
not. I mean, and what they're doing right with Jey Uso, they need to carry that over with the women. Now, I personally and I'm a fan of the character of Jey Uso. I would rather watch Tiffany wrestle a brooms. I cannot. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I love Jey Uso wrestling matches. Um,
he's one of the greatest tag wrestlers of all time, but singles has not ever really landed for me.
there are great tag team wrestlers who pivot to singles and are great at singles, and then there are some who their move set just works in a tandem. Look, man, somebody put the video game link of Jey Uso at versus Gunther at WrestleMania, and it was the funniest thing, but it was sad, but it was true. It was like 47 super kicks and a spear and a splash, and that was the win.
Yeah,
And I got to be honest, like I almost feel like that's how the match is going to go. I think Gunther's one of the best wrestlers in the world, period, male or female. And he is going to lose at WrestleMania, and he should lose at WrestleMania.
yep,
But if he can get a 4 out of 5 match with Jey Uso, I
yep.
would be shocked.
I they had one go at it on main event.
It-
Obviously, if Jay's been the if Jay maybe Jay's been the plan the whole time, and they told them don't empty the clip on this
yeah,
match. Um, so we're coming up on time here. I think we covered everything. There was a lot. The only other thing I could think to say is if you enjoy good wrestling, the only match we didn't really call out that was actually pretty fun was the Chelsea Naomi match was pretty good. So I
it
would
was
seek that
good.
out and watch that as well. Um, I'm just so ready for Naomi to do something that she's never done before. So I really, really hope that the plot twist is that it was her. That would be incredible, and I think it could make it could be a main event women's angle that doesn't involve a dude.
Who was the tag match on Raw? Io Dakota versus Zoe and Shayna.
Oh my God, we missed that one too. See that one? No, no, no. It was Liv and Raquel versus Io and Dakota, and it got a 4 star. You know, again, uh, not that we're celebrating this
Yeah.
person's reviews, but it was actually the first time Liv's ever gotten a 4, which is crazy and just shows you how crappy the reviews are. The match was really, really good. Um, Liv got busted open, which only added to the match. But it was
And,
again, it
and
was one of
and I
those
take it
matches that
Live in Raquel won, right? If I remember.
Io won, right?
I thought Io won, but how did Io? So then I got to go back and watch it. I mean, I think I thought Liv won. No, maybe you're right.
No, Io pinned Liv, I thought,
Okay.
because they announced Io facing Rhea right after that, right? Um, and shame on it's just been that busy of a week because that was a very good match.
I'm gonna
And
go that match. I'm gonna rewatch that match. Fallon and the four-way. I'm gonna do that today at some point. Um, and I think next week we have some mailbag questions next week that
yep,
we will definitely get to.
Io pin Liv.
Okay. I heard that. I feel, oh, you know what? I didn't watch the match. Wow. I saw the clip where Liv got busted open. That's the part I did see. I gotta go watch that match. So apologies to our listeners, but it's been that hectic of a women's wrestling week. So we
You
are
might have still
coming to
been
the
hungover on Monday
I
from Sunday.
yes, and we can talk about that. I was, and so again, football season is over. Very sad. Very sad. However, all right, there's my flag. So I'm very sad that football season's over. It's an exciting off season for me, I guess, because now it's more or less a who do we play in that first game on Thursday night, which it could be you guys, because there's a groundswell of support from the NFL media to get Lions Eagles on Thursday night because of the Eagles' home opponents. They say Commanders is too soon because it's a division opponent. Nobody cares for the Giants. Cowboys would be more of a ratings ploy than anything else. The other one I heard interesting was the Bears.
Yeah.
The Bears or the Lions Thursday night.
Yeah. Um, I'm not ready to think about next season yet. I have all the faith in in the world that we're gonna have another good draft and hopefully have a healthier season. But I was very happy to see your team win under the circumstances. Darius Slay is one of my favorite players ever, and he played a very good game. The defense was lights out, and um, you know, people are like, "Oh, the game was bad." I enjoy a good ass kicking when the team you're rooting for is winning. It's fun. So
Yeah, people I got a lot of those weird texts too like that night, and I saw it after the game because I didn't check my phone during the game. And people were like, the game was bad though. And I'm like, for who? Not for me. My team won. And honestly, they won in such a dominating fashion that you can't really say anything other than they were the best team. It wasn't a fluky thing that came down to the end, a bad ref call. It
you,
was from the
while Kendrick
game.
Lamar was performing, you already knew your team was going to win. So that's
I
pretty cool.
okay. Everybody says that. Everybody's telling me he's like, oh, I knew the game was over at halftime. So I think two things happened when I'm watching this game. One, I think I have more faith. I was more scared of Mahomes than even Chiefs fans were happy. They like Chiefs fans even were like, no, he ain't coming back, right? Like Chiefs fans were like, no, this is over. And I'm like, I've seen him do this before. 24-0 down to the Texans, 10 down in 3 Super Bowls, and he won. So I'm like, this game ain't over. They get the ball first. What happens? But then they went 3-and-out on the first drive in the second half. I'm like, oh, it's over.
Yeah.
Now it's over. Now I can breathe easy. I can see what happens. They just, until we put our scrubs in, our backups in, sorry, not scrubs, they couldn't move the ball. So the game was pretty much over at that point. Um, this is a new thing for us Eagles fans. We're no longer ever going to be seen as the plucky underdog.
Nope.
We are no longer going to be seen as the franchise that can get to the big game and besides a Nick Foles performance, win the big game.
Hey,
Um,
you guys have won 2 Super Bowls in less than 10 years, and in your division, you've won 2 Super Bowls since anyone else in your division's even been.
yeah,
And two of the teams in
that's
your
fair.
division that are considered legacy teams haven't even made the Super Bowl in the 21st century. So
Yep.
you guys are, and you guys have made three in the 21st century. Four.
Yeah, lost
McNabb.
to the Patriots, Patriots, Chiefs,
Oh,
Chiefs.
yeah, yep, yep. So
Yeah.
you guys are a glamour team now.
Well, okay. So these are the stats that somebody in my group chat sent. Do you know we've been to 3 Super Bowls in 7 years and won two? And I'm like, and I messaged back. I said, "Oh, so we're no longer the underdog at that
Nope.
point." Because 2 Super Bowls in a 7-year window is hard
Yep.
for any franchise,
Yep.
other than those Cowboys and Patriots teams and the Chiefs and the Steelers and the Broncos. It just doesn't happen. 3 Super Bowls in 7 years. That's more than that's almost 50% of the Super Bowls
Yep.
played in that time. So, two Super Bowls in 3 years, one win, 2 in 7 years, 3 Super Bowl appearances. To your point, nobody in my division has even made the Super Bowl, and we've made three in the last 10 years.
Yep.
And nobody in our division has won, and we've won two. And so, yeah, like and I told them, I said, we have to now embrace being Darth Vader, at least Darth Vader of the NFC.
Yeah.
Um, I'm happier for this team than I was the 2017 team. 2017 felt like, okay, we won. I don't know how we won, but we won. Yay, I'll take the trophy. Cool, no problem. This felt like this is the start of something. NFC is very tough, and I hope the media in the NFL put some respect on the NFC quarterbacks, Stafford, Daniels, Goff. Um, Love, because all season long, I had to hear, you had to hear that the NFC is full of civilian quarterbacks, good players, but not great players. And all the great quarterbacks are in the AFC: Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow, Herbert, Stroud. And I got to be honest, I think the NFC was the better conference this year. I think it
I think so
was.
too. I
I
think
think
so
our
too.
toughest match, if we got to play the Lions in the NFC title game, I think that would have been the toughest game. But I do think the Rams were by far the toughest match the Eagles had. And the Commanders were the last team, to beat the Eagles. And the Commanders did score more points on us than the Mahomes led Chiefs did. So I hope that the Staffords, the Goffs, the Loves, obviously Jalen, they get more respect as not just game managers, but as top tier quarterbacks. Because I gotta say, what Matt Stafford did against that defense in the snow looks a lot more impressive now after what we did to Washington and especially Mahomes. I mean, I thought Mahomes was a rookie. I'd never seen him play that bad.
Stafford
And
came Stafford came one right guard picking up a blitz away from possibly knocking you guys out at home.
I,
Not, and a lot of football games can turn on one play, but to that point, the Chiefs were never within 5 football plays, let alone 1.
No, no, Stafford, even at 28-15, when he didn't even score the first touchdown, I thought played a better game given the set of circumstances than Mahomes played this past Sunday. I thought Daniels was better also against us. And I honestly, even though he threw 3 interceptions, I think Love was as bad as Mahomes was Sunday. Maybe Mahomes was worse.
Okay.
Because I gotta say, Mahomes looked rattled. But yeah, it was a great season for obviously for me and for Eagles fans everywhere. But again, like I said to them, now the problem is we aren't going to sneak up on anybody anymore. See, last year's dip kind of let people maybe off the hook a little bit, like, oh, well, maybe they're going to crash again. There's no more crashing now.
Yeah.
Every single game next year, we're going to get every team's best shot. And according to Elias, the Eagles next year have the hardest schedule ever on paper. That's what they
Well,
say. So,
well, I know I speak for everyone who listens and watched you navigate this season.
mm,
That we're happy for you. Flags fly forever. So even if
yeah.
next season's tough, which I don't think it will be, I think your team will still be very good because Jalen's that good. And
I mean,
uh,
I mean,
hopefully,
next year, I hope next year we get like, look, I'd love to see you guys, fulfill your destiny next year. I know a lot of in the media, they're writing the Lions off because, you know, as I read, the brain is gone out of the building. The brain trust is gone out of the building, which is Ben Johnson. And as I said to somebody, I said, Ben Johnson gets a lot of credit for calling one of the dumber game plans in the history of the playoffs in recent memory, like he did against the Commanders. And it's like amazing how he calls such a bad game plan, and we just brushed it under the rug.
yeah. So I'll sign off by saying I am glad he got a job somewhere else, and I don't think he'll have all the tools in the tool shed somewhere else that he had with us. I'm not glad he's gone, but the narrative since he left has made me glad he's gone because we'll be a 12 plus team win without him. And the players ultimately make plays, and we still have Panay Sewell and Jameer Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff. And I think Jared has graduated to a point in his career where, he sees the field ahead of time, like a Montana, like a Brady. That ages very well, and he's going to continue to be better, and he doesn't need Ben Johnson in his ear to do so. And my final thought on it is it'll be really, really cool if the Eagles and Lions play each other in the playoffs next year.
Well, we might play each other in game one for sure. I would love to see that in the playoffs. And honestly, um, I think I think the thing for Jared Goff that might help him next year is he might get a coordinator that actually just sticks to the run, and doesn't want to polish his genius. Because I think the one thing I'll give Kellen Moore all the credit in the world for this season after the bye week is he stuck to the run for the
Right.
Eagles. Like he never once read the press clippings of, oh, you don't let Jalen pass too much. What are you doing? And he's like, nope, we're sticking to what we do well. We run the
Winning's
ball, play
winning.
action. Yep. All right.
All
On
right.
that note, everybody, we will see you back next week. Hopefully, this week is as eventful as last week, and we'll have a lot to talk about. So, see you then.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.